Back to Young Engineers of Today. We have another semester in store for you. I see a lot of familiar faces and a couple of new people too. Um, if you were here last semester, welcome back. You know who you are. I know who you are. If you weren't, though, welcome. This is going to be hopefully something a little bit different than what you're used to. First of all, I want to apologize. I have the flu, so I am not uh, my normal bright and shiny self, I guess. But today's going to be a pretty easy class anyway. We're going to be going over what you guys will be doing this semester. Those of you who were here last semester have already seen most of this presentation, but stick around because at the end, we talk about what we're going to be doing at the end of the semester. Of course, if you want to keep it a surprise, then there's that too. But otherwise, it's stuff that you've pretty much already seen before. Um, we will be covering some similar stuff to last semester, but there will be new stuff as well. So you should see some new and interesting things. Anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get started on engineering your future. And again, I apologize for sounding and acting all flu-like, but young engineers in general, why do it? Well, do you like to take things apart? Would you find building a game more fun than playing the game? Or, at least in my case, would you find building the game at least as fun as playing the game? Are you curious about how to solder or use epoxy? Maybe repair a tent with needle and thread? Basically, do you like working with your hands? Do you enjoy math or science? Do you read science fiction or fantasy? Well, if you answered yes to really any of these things, or at least some of them, welcome. You're among similar like-minded people, myself included. Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Yes. Um, that's a big purpose of this, is just to sort of get you guys to realize that, hey, not alone. There are other people who feel this way. And it's good to explore that and see if you can foster that interest into something that you want to do for the rest of your life. But at any rate, that's what we're all here for. Also, hopefully to at least have a little bit of fun along the way. Um, and actually, oh yeah. So what essentially does Young Engineers comprise of? If we're going to be doing this thing, what exactly will we be doing? Not necessarily the content of the semester, but how is it structured? Well, let me tell you. You'll be working with your head and your hands. So there will be thinking involved. Um, although not too much right now, because that's hard for me, and I'm not going to expect you guys to think if I can't think very well. Um, but you will be working with your head and your hands, so you'll be making stuff. In addition to that, there will be those lab sessions that you'll be making things. You will work towards being a technology creator, not just a consumer of technology. So you'll work towards understanding how things work under the hood, um, as opposed to just I want to get like the new iPhone or the new like the Pixel or something like that. Like it's always good to get, it's cool to get, but then it's also cool to understand why it's cool. A lot of times when you start to understand what exactly is going on underneath the surface, it can make these things even more interesting because you go like, oh, huh, wow, that's pretty clever. People are pretty, people are clever. Anyway, the structure of this is we're going to have these class meetings. So every Monday and Wednesday, you're going to plop down at your computer, and I'm going to get on, and I'm going to basically just, you know, excuse me, talk and yell and gesticulate, although you can't see that, and draw terrible paint drawings and things like that. And, you guys are going to nod patiently with all of my ramblings and, ask any questions that you might have, and I'll answer them happily. But that's going to be the bulk of your time with young engineers is these online class meetings. So you're stuck with me, unfortunately. There's also 1 hour labs. Okay, so 1 hour labs twice a week online. They call them labs. Um, I like to think of them more like lectures because that tends to be uh, more along the lines because, you know, sometimes we do stuff, as some of you who have been around before can attest. Sometimes you end up doing something during the online classes, and sometimes it just ends up me being like, hey, let me tell you about the brain or whatever, and then I just talk. But we try and get like a good mix of the two. So sometimes it'll be just lecturing, and sometimes it will be more interactive than that. No homework. Sometimes I might ask you to do something like, hey, can you get this downloaded for next class or something like that, but I'm not going to give you a grade on it. That doesn't really seem to be the point. You guys are doing this presumably because you want to be here, and the entire point is you take away from it what you find interesting and what you find useful and basically what sticks with you. To that end, you know, if you find that, I don't know, ancient architecture isn't your thing, well, you're not going to be punished for that because that's not the purpose of this. I hope you find it interesting. I hope you find everything interesting. But that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to sort of expose you to a whole bunch of different engineering concepts in the hopes that there's something that will catch your interest. No tests, same idea. We just do this. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, William. This is the same slideshow, although at the end I go over what we're going to be doing this semester. But yeah, this is all the same slideshow because we have some new people. So you know, we got to do the dog and pony show, as the phrase goes. Anyway, yeah, no tests again. Yeah, basically, Liam. Because we're not constantly assessing how much you've retained from this. Again, that's not the point. There will potentially, I don't know for sure, but there will potentially be a digital portfolio. I know we talked about it last semester and we sort of dinked around with it a little bit, but you know, there's not, you know, we generally don't continue with it very much. A lot of that tends to lie on you guys to add things to your digital portfolio if you're so interested. If you are, fantastic. If not, well, you know, at least you have it for later. Then there are lab sessions, which are 1 2-hour lab every other week for those of you in Charlotte, and Saturday labs for those outside of Charlotte or who cannot come Thursday. That's the thing. It's every other Thursday. I thought it was Tuesday last semester. But anyway, Thursday for those of you in Charlotte, but then there will be one on Saturday for those of you who do not live in Charlotte or who couldn't make it at the regularly scheduled time. The kinds of topics we will cover. Medieval siege engines. Yeah, you guys are going to be making your own ballista. Milling using an other mill. Using the ShopBot to create a Mother's Day gift. Networking. Cybersecurity. And building multi-stage rockets. Sure, all actually pretty cool things. To be able to cut out and assemble your own ballista is pretty gnarly. Plus cybersecurity is pretty interesting too. At any rate, just as a real quick test, are you able to raise your virtual hand? Just go ahead and do that right now. I can go ahead and put them down. So if you raise them, just go ahead and keep them up. You won't? Okay. Just morally opposed to it. All right. Well, it looks like more or less everybody raised their hand, and those who didn't were in the class last semester anyway, so I know you guys know how to do that. Have you registered for all of the webinars that are scheduled? If you have, fantastic. If not, make sure you do that soon, just so you get the emails and you're able to join and everything like that. have you registered on Edmodo? I know Edmodo is something that we use um, occasionally. It doesn't come up very often, but it is good to in fourth grade. Oh, there you go. It's good to have it in case there's that odd notification or something like that. Like I think last semester I was having some technical difficulties, and so I left a note. I left a note stating that I wasn't going to be able to teach one of the classes. It wasn't you guys. I think it was my high school class. But regardless, I think I was having trouble that night anyway. But regardless, you guys would have that advance warning in case that comes up. Have you created your Gmail account? This is good for that digital portfolio because you can use Google accounts in order to create a web space where you can set up, just a gallery of all of the stuff that you've done this semester and stuff that you do in perpetuity in the future and everything like that. And then subscribe to our YouTube channel for webinars. Be sure your parents approve. So just in case, you aren't able to catch a lesson one day. Well, we've got a YouTube channel where I record these sessions and then post them. I try and post them the same day. Sometimes they come in like in the morning of the day after. Most of the time. But yes, I am in fact recording this one right now. I ask your parents to like us on Facebook so they can stay up with everything going on Facebook. So there you go. That way your parents can keep track of what's going on with Young Engineers and everything like that through Facebook. I can provide those links certainly at the end of class. Now we get into, this is the same thing for everybody who's been here before. What is an engineer? Well, let's go with the official dictionary definition. It's the practical application of science and math, as in the design and construction of machines, vehicles, structures, roads, and systems. Basically, yeah, it's new Edmodo codes for this semester. I believe you should have gotten an email from Mrs. Dupik about that if you did. I actually haven't received new Edmodo codes. So it's possible no, but very likely yes. I guess we'll wait and see if some new codes come trickling in the next few days here. Essentially, engineers use math and science to improve the world. Basically, we take the advances in math and science that we know and understand, and we use those in order to create new inventions and improvements and systems and things like that. So, what makes a good engineer? Engineers need to be strong in math and science. They need to be problem solvers who show perseverance. And they need to be able to work as a team and to communicate effectively. So let's look at them each. Engineers need to be strong in math and science. Yeah, I mean, there's a fair amount of that involved in engineering. Some disciplines more so than others, but by and large, you'll need to be knowledgeable in some variety of math and some range of science in order to be, your particular flavor of engineer. Keep in mind that I ran into this problem when I was younger, and you guys probably don't have this considering you're young engineers of today, but maybe you do, who knows. Some of you might be like, oh, I'm not that good at math, I just don't have a mind for math, which I'll tell you right now is categorically not true. I struggled with that when I was younger, but in reality, it's just learning how to think a certain way and applying yourself at it. And that sounds like such a platitude and such a like a, I mean, next you're going to hear me say that like it builds character. Um, excuse me. But it's true. In the end, everybody has a mathematically inclined mind. It's just you need to learn it and you need to get comfortable with it. You need to get familiar with it. And you need to understand the inner workings of it. And a good instructor can do that for you. You know, good textbooks can do that for you. But you guys have that capability. Everybody does. Granted, again, you guys probably aren't worried about that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so, crazy interested in engineering. But just so you guys know. So engineers need to be strong in math and science. Engineering is the application of math and science principles. Because of this, it is essential engineers have a strong foundation in the two subjects. All engineers, from bridge builders to chemical manufacturers, need to study hard in math or science class. And this doesn't mean you need to be a math or science superstar. Different positions require different expertise. So basically all the things that I just said. They need to be able to work as a team and communicate effectively. Yes, basically, okay, so let's just go through this. To solve great problems, engineers of different backgrounds must come together to combine their expertise. Generally speaking, no one branch of engineering is going to be able to solve a given obstacle or problem. Excuse me. Mighty coughing fit. Okay. You might be working on something of an electrical nature, but then you run into an issue that's of a heat or mechanical nature, in which case you would need somebody else with their particular expertise to help you out with that. Um, and this happens decently often, especially as projects get larger and larger and there are more moving parts in them. In order for the team to be successful, you need to be able to not just know the answer, but share it in a clear way others will be able to understand. This is very important because you, like it says here, you might know the answer, but then you can't explain it properly. In which case, when it comes down to whose solution are we going to use, I'll tell you right now, more often than not, people will go with the less optimal solution that they understand better, that was explained better, as opposed to the better option, which was not explained as well. It's unfortunate that we can't all just read each other's minds and understand each other perfectly, but this is the reality that we live in. Here's just a short little comic showing, this the differences in communication and everything like that. What the user asked for, they just asked for, a stick on a string or on a rope, and then how the analyst saw it was, you know, an impossible swing. How the system was designed was different. As the programmer wrote it, some ugly hacks in order to keep it working. What the user really wanted was just a regular swing, and how it actually works is, yeah. But yeah, communicating effectively actually, also goes beyond just being able to give you impart your knowledge in an effective manner. It's also good because it's good for forming relationships with people in the industry. And it's not necessarily, I mean, it's not a great thing, but it is the truth. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that's less so in the engineering industry, but it's certainly still very important. If you leave a good impression on somebody when they're thinking of who they can, hire for a job, And if you left a good enough impression, they might contact you with that opportunity. But regardless, if you left them with a good impression and they see your resume, they'll definitely be more inclined to pick yours over somebody else's, um, who they don't know, who has like the same qualifications. If you guys have the same qualifications, they'll pick you hands down. Um, people are more willing to fudge it too if they have a favorable impression of you. Um, Whereas, if they had no idea who you were and they saw a couple of resumes, they might be more inclined to go with the other one. So it's good for your ability to build a future for yourself. I just want to say that in order to get sort of the wheels moving and everything like that. But um, know that I'm not trying to impress upon you the need to start thinking about your future yet. I think that's something that's still a few years away yet. They need to be problem solvers who show perseverance. Engineers are presented with huge problems that they need to break down into manageable tasks. They are technical puzzle solvers, and this is true. Um, you know, Take, for example, we need to build a spaceship. Massive, gigantic, absolutely humongous task. There is so much that goes into that, not even sure where to begin. So then you break it down into smaller problems. Okay, well, we need something that can hold people in it. We need something that can hold its shape very well. Okay, we need something that can get it up into space. We need something that we need some kind of fuel that we can easily use. We need to bring it back down. We need to be able to control it. We need to be able to make sure everything stays closed and tight on it. We need to be able to make sure that, the air is recycled to some degree on it. Like all of these things are all parts of the same problem. And as you break it down into manageable tasks, you suddenly the problem starts to look smaller and, surmountable. And that's the important thing. But that's a big part of engineering. In addition, all great problems seem impossible when you start. Again, to go back to the example of building a spaceship, that seems pretty dang impossible. Obviously, it's not. History has shown us, and current events have shown us that it's not impossible. But it does certainly seem mad initially. So engineers must learn to work hard throughout projects and persevere through setbacks. So, the first time you build something, it's not going to work. I mean, that's pretty much almost guaranteed all the time, always. If you did, you basically just won the lottery. Um, it's probably not going to work the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time, or the fifth time, or the 50th time, or the 100th time. These things happen. And all you do is you just pick yourself up and you continue making progress as best you can. That's all that can be asked. Figure out how to solve the next hurdle and move on. That's it. So what kind of jobs are there for engineers? Well, a lot. Let's spend some time looking at them. There are many fields, including civil, mechanical, electrical, chemical, aerospace, structural, genetic, biomedical, computer, software, military, nuclear, forensic, reverse, and environmental. Um, Reverse engineering, taking something apart to figure out how it works. Uh, that's what reverse is. In fact, yeah, civil is the application of um, bridge and building construction and bridge and structure construction, as well as the design of communities and utilities for those communities like water and things like that, and sewage, traffic flow, timing lights so that the flow of traffic is as smooth as possible, things like that. Mechanical is machines, boats, stuff like that. Well, it used to be boats. It used to be a military thing. Yeah, like an engineer used to be a military field, and they, you know, were things like boats and tanks and stuff like that were their uh, areas of expertise. Anyway, I digress. Electrical, uh, you know, electronics. In addition, circuits and things like that. In addition, power generation and stuff like that can also be electrical. There's sort of different flavors of electrical inside of the umbrella. That's what I'm trying to say, is that all of these have sort of subfields. Chemical, creating new chemicals, pretty self-explanatory. Aerospace, planes and spaceships. Structural, more of a specialization on structure building. Genetic, genes. Biomedical, new drugs and prosthetics and things like that for people and animals and everything. Computer, specifically computers and how hardware and software interact. Software, which is basically just a fancy name for a computer science major. Military, specifically related to machines of war. Other things too, but they all generally have the idea that they're meant to help out with um, wartime in some way, whether they be logistics or firepower or whatever. Nuclear, uh, nuclear reactors. Forensic, related to court of law, being able to be used in court of law, so forensic engineers and stuff like that, they can work to solve cases. Reverse, like I said, taking stuff apart. And environmental, obviously, inventions and developments and things like that help protect and even modify our environment. Don't think of engineering just as a guy in a hard hat. There are many different kinds of jobs, from hands-on research to leading a team. Perks of the job. Oh, money's certainly one of them. So as you can see here, median earnings by major group. This is anything in the orange is a bachelor's degree, and anything in the light sort of blue is a master's degree. And we've got agricultural natural resources that's like 50,000 and 70,000 for a bachelor's and a master's respectively. Social science with 55 and 85. Physical sciences with 59 and 90. Health with 60 and 80. Business with 60 and 80. Computers and mathematics with 70 and 89. And then engineering tops out this chart with 75 and 99,000 for bachelor's and master's degrees respectively. So, having a master's degree in engineering and making $100,000 a year doesn't sound that bad. This is the top 10 majors that lead to high salaries, and this is not even just a list of engineering majors. Like, this is a list of all majors. It just so happens that engineering happens to be pretty high up on this list. So you got nuclear engineering. This is the bachelor's starting median salary and then mid-career median salary. So the bottom line is the one when you're just starting out, and then the top line is the one, 10, 20 years down the line. Nuclear engineering, start out at like 60,000, go up to 100. Computer science, start out at 60, go to 100. Applied mathematics, start out at 60, go to 100. Physics, start out at 60, go to 100. Computer engineering, start at 60, go to 100. Material science and engineering, start out at 60, go to 100. Electrical engineering, start out at 60, go to 100. Chemical engineering, start at 60, go to 100. And then petroleum engineering, start out at 100 and go up to 160. So, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. How many of you have worked like a job for the summer or something like that? Show of hands. Okay, one hand so far. All right. Well, how much money did you make? Was it like minimum wage? Oh, you're not old enough. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's true too. Well, let's just put it like this. Nice. Let's just put it like this. Minimum wage is what, 7.50 an hour? 7.50 an hour times 40 hours is $300 a week. $300 a week times 52 weeks out of the year, assuming you work, let's just, I mean, this is even highballing it because you're not going to be working every single day or every single week even. Let's see here, 52, 300. It's about $16,000, $17,000 a year before taxes. Imagine making, 10 times that much, pulling home $3,000 a week before taxes. After taxes even. I don't even know if it takes into account taxes. That's kind of ridiculous. Um, anyway, it's a lot of money. In addition to just, money, percentage of college graduates sorted by major who answered satisfied or very satisfied to the question, overall, how satisfied are you with your current career path up to now? This is a satisfaction survey. And as you can see, a lot of these engineering majors are hovering at about the high 40s to low 50s, which is pretty impressive considering, you know, you'd like to think that like you could guarantee the fact that you're going to be satisfied with the job that you get into. It's not always going to be the case, but the fact that over half of the people who, decided to pursue chemical engineering ended up satisfied with it, that's pretty cool. MIS is Management Information Systems. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I think it's just, I don't know, like an IT thing or something? No idea. Half of the jobs today are, well, half of the jobs created today are the result of technology. However, many jobs are being lost to technology. So you've got a lot of jobs being created because of technology. But, so search engine optimization, which is what SEO is in content and social media. Uh, the internet has created sort of an explosion of different kinds of jobs. However, many jobs are being lost to technology because robots. Whoops. Whoops. So this is just a small little graph. This is actually, I think, about 6 years out of date. Um, but regardless, it gives a sort of a, a feeling of what the job markets look like over the last like 20 years or so. Um, but as you can see, this is job growth in various fields, various skill levels. Low skill being things like food service and janitorial work and stuff like that. Medium skill being cubicle work, a lot of it, and then factory work and things like that, and sales. And then high skill being, managerial work, uh, professional work being like people who go to college to do what they do, like doctors and lawyers and things like that, and then technical occupations. So like even stuff like IT, I believe is lumped into that. But anyway, as you can see, according to this graph, again, according to this graph, um, the jump in high skill job openings is more or less proportionate to the drop in medium skill job openings. Not obviously a one-to-one correlation, but it looks like there is a decent amount of shifting in the industry. Excuse me, in the job market. But no, the black line is for males and the yellow line is for females. Um, like I said, I know it's not a one-to-one thing, but there is definitely a drop off for medium skill for males as well. So this is an electric shaver factory, and this used to be staffed with about 200 people. I believe this was the picture that Mr. Dubik. I believe that's the history behind the picture, according to Mr. Dubik. But as you can see, there aren't a whole lot of people working in there anymore. You've got like this dude here and this dude here. You got a couple of people down over here. Excuse me. But by and large, most of the jobs had disappeared from this factory. It is no longer a factory staffed by humans. It's a factory staffed by robots. And then there are humans who watch the robots and, do other kinds of stuff too. But yeah, by and large, it's, as you can see, that there's very definitely a shift in um, uh, available jobs and everything like that over the last like 20 years or so. It's the engineering method versus the scientific method. What do you want, Google? Oh. So the scientific method involves observation, hypothesis, experimentation, or observation, hypothesizing, experimentation, analyzing data, conclusion, and then peer review. Whereas the engineering method involves research, or researching, planning, prototyping, and commercializing. Okay, there we go. So the scientific method is basically finding something, seeing something in the world and going, huh, that's odd. And then hypothesizing is, I wonder why it's like that. Experimenting is, well, if it is like that, then I should be able to do this and repeat it and have it do the same thing more or less consistently. Analyzing the data is collating a spreadsheet of all the times you tried to make the thing happen again and the results. Conclusion is, well, I guess it did, or no, I guess not. Maybe it's this, so you can pop back into the hypothesis uh, part, but the peer review at the end is when other scientists take a look at your work and go, okay, so they did it this way. If I do the same thing, can I repeat it? Um, and then they go, yeah, I can repeat it, so this seems pretty legit. Or they go, no, I can't. There's something weird here. There must be something different. Like either your hypothesis is wrong, or there's something you haven't taken into account, like, some sort of condition that your lab is in or something like that. Or, maybe you're just lying. But that's not terribly often. But the peer review part is where many scientists come together and sort of work out whether or not the hypothesis is consistent with reality by doing the same experiment as the original. And then with the engineering method, you've got, it's significantly shorter, though the process ends up being longer. So research is basically saying, hey, can we answer this question? So, are there answers to this question that we can utilize? Plan is, okay, so I think based on all of the things that we know, it would probably be best to go with this solution, like building a car that's made out of tissue paper, because it's going to be super cheap. Prototyping is, building a version of that item or that system, testing that system, um, to see whether or not it actually ends up working out in practice, in life. So you build your car out of tissue paper, you built a fully working prototype, you turn it on and run it for 5 minutes, and most of it blows off and the rest that stays on catches fire because the engine gets so hot. And you go, okay, that's not great. We should probably fix this. We need new materials. So you might go back to the research part. So there is sort of a possible closed loop from prototype to research and then back to prototype eventually. That's just kind of that's a big part of the engineering process, and a lot of times it will be a sort of circular thing. You'll prototype something and you go like, okay, it doesn't work because of this. We'll go back to researching solutions and then planning a new solution and then making a new thing. And then commercialize is making your product available and able to be made on a larger scale, because you might be able to, for instance, manufacture some graphene in a lab, but the reason why we don't see graphene everywhere is because we can't commercialize it yet. We're not entirely sure how to use it. That's part of it, although we have ideas, but we can't make enough reliably and quickly. So that's a big part of the problem too, is we can get like a little bit of graphene, but we need, in order to commercialize something, we would need to be able to make tons of it, like a whole bunch of it. So that's a big part of the process as well. And I think that's going to do it. We're going to have a bit of a shorter class today since it's just the introductory class. But Monday we're going to jump right into our first lesson, and we're going to get started from there. I believe it's going to be medieval architecture and engineering. But yeah, just so you guys know how this works out in the future, as we end the class, I try and end it a little bit earlier, maybe about 10 till, because I have a class at 8 that I have to go to. But usually what I do is I ask some poll questions, and then I leave it open for question and answer time. Oh, nice. Congratulations, Jacob. I'll leave it open for question and answer time, in which case you guys are more than welcome to ask any questions that you might have, whether or not they're related to the lesson. They don't necessarily have to be, although generally they are, just by virtue of the fact that you guys have questions about the stuff that we went over. But anyway, so I'm going to ask the poll questions in just a moment, just so you guys know how it works. You can answer it however you feel. And then I'll leave it open for question and answer time, in which case, I invite you guys, if you have a question, to write it into the chat box. It'll pop up into the question box for me, and I can answer it. I can answer all of them in the order I get them. And in fact, you guys are more than welcome to do that throughout the lessons anyway. Like, for those of you who are new, those of you who've been here before, I know you guys are totally fine with just typing stuff into the chat box and, like having conversations and stuff like that. I enjoy that. But anyway, yeah, if you guys, ever just want to like ask a question, go ahead and type it in there. That's the way I tend to prefer to do it, because then it pops up while I'm talking, and then I can just sort of segue into it or something like that, rather than having to, do the whole unmuting thing and everything like that, because that everybody's got a keyboard. But I've run into an issue plenty of times in the past where a person doesn't have like a working microphone. Or there's issues with it. But so that'll just help ensure that we can, that you guys can ask your questions and we can get through all that. But anyway, let me go ahead and do the poll questions, and then we'll do question and answer time if you guys have anything. If you don't have anything, you're more than welcome to head out once we get through the poll questions.